Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. Prime Minister continues anti-crime discussions. Residents of Todd's Road to get better roads and a new pavilion. And the government to focus on development of Trinidad and Tobago's creative industry sector. In our top story, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessor, met with the leader of the opposition, the Honorable Keith Rowley, this afternoon as part of their continued collaborative discussions on anti-crime measures for the nation. As part and parcel of the ongoing anti-crime consultations, the Prime Minister yesterday restored hope for the many residents of East Port of Spain as returned to the area for a second time in under 1 week in an attempt to host yet another round of consultations with residents with the intent of helping to curb crime in the area.
Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessor, has made good on her promise to the residents of East Port of Spain as she returned to the area on Wednesday to listen to their concerns and possible solutions. The auditorium of the Southeast Port of Spain Secondary School was packed as many from the area and even other parts of the country came to express their distress. Stories were told of persons having to sleep in hallways and the kitchen floor of friends and family members with their young children. Others complained of being denied jobs because of their address and a lack of qualifications. However, what was most pronounced was the residents' disagreement with some of the social programs that were previously implemented in the area. 1 week prior, when the Honorable Prime Minister first visited the area following a spree of teenage murders, she assured the residents that she would return to lend a greater ear to their cries and would be open to feasible solutions which her government would implement to address the crime situation. On Wednesday, following the meeting, which lasted several hours, the Honorable Prime Minister said the two prevalent issues were the need for proper housing as well as secure jobs.
Those are the two main issues that were repeated throughout. And so that we will look at it. We have a team from HDC, and those persons are at the moment talking to the ones who raise HDC issues. But those were the two main issues that we heard. Very few people actually spoke about crime per se. But these are the social issues, I believe, which surround the causes of crime within the area. Jobs and housing. Those are the two main issues.
After speaking with members of the media, the Honorable Prime Minister was accompanied by residents as she made her way out of the school's compound and onto Nelson Street. The residents stated they were confident that Prime Minister Persad-Bissessor would address their concerns and bring relief to the area in the shortest space of time. Among the ministers present at the meeting were Education Minister Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, National Security Minister Emmanuel George, Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister Roger Samuel, Attorney General Anand Ramlogan, HGC Chairman Jerlene John, Acting Police Commissioner Stephen Williams, Deputy Commissioner of Police Mervyn Richardson, and Chief of Defence Staff Major General Henrik Maraj. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Residents of Todd's Road can look forward to better roads and a new pavilion. This as Works and Infrastructure Minister Dr. Surajratan Rambajan commenced a number of restorative projects in the area.
The paving of new roads to the building of drains that would aid the relieving of floods to reinforce hillsides. All these speak of the commencement of rehabilitative works along the Todd Station Road in Caparo. This as Works and Infrastructure Minister Dr. Surajratan Rambajan met with residents in the area following calls for development of infrastructure in and around the community. One of the projects carded for the area is the construction of a new pavilion at the community's recreation ground. The area is known for its cricket clubs and involvement in tournaments. The Works Minister noted as he turned the sod for the Todd Station Road, the community will soon see reinforcements in place along areas that are prone to landslips.
At present, we are going to be building, like Mr. Simangal told you, 2 kilometers of road rehabilitation from Caparo Valley Road, Brasso Road, and it also includes a car park for the St. Mary's Church. While we are here in the community, we are going to pave the car park, build and pave the car park for the St. Mary's Church. 520 feet of landslips that has to be done. And my friend will tell you that you have to auger pile that perhaps 30 feet deep, right? In order to get hard soil. And if you don't get it, you got to go down more again. Otherwise, it will slip over. So the soil testing has to be done. But we do not want to wait while the soil testing is done to continue to have you drive on a road that is not good. So let us fix where we have fixed the box drains. Let us fix the road up to that point. And in the third phase now, for which we are just placing the financing in place, we are going to be finishing the rest of the road as we go along.
The area, which has done without a supply of water for years, are now able to receive in their pipes. However, MP for the area, Jairam Simangal, says works are ongoing and they have begun to lay foundation works in order to smoothen out the supply and bring it to optimum level.
We didn't wait until all the pipelines were run throughout the area. We approached the Minister of Works and they have started. You will see new pavement going on, continuing where they are left off. New pavement you can walk from here straight down to the Wasa station. With new pavement. There are areas where they are box drained for the very first time. So we were doing the infrastructure works.
Minister Rambachan notes that so far, over 2,500 projects have been completed within the past year, and his ministry continued to prioritize its projects for the betterment of the people.
I have put in motion and will complete by the end of September 2,500 plus projects in local government. So in other words, 2,500 communities would have benefited from at least one project under local government. In the history of local government, in the history of the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, in the history of representation by party in Trinidad and Tobago, no government, no minister has done 2,500 plus projects in 1 year under local government. Whether it's under the PURE program, where the major roads are being paved, or under the highways division, where major roads are being rehabilitated and paved, you will see the extent to which this government is concerned about infrastructural development.
The minister, while turning the sod for the construction, gave his commitment to ensuring their needs be met in the coming weeks and months. Kimberam Kalawan, News 4.
Up next, development of creative industries. Stay with us. Welcome back. The government will focus on the development of Trinidad and Tobago's creative industries sector. This is the assurance coming from Minister of Trade and Industry, Senator the Honourable Vasant Barath, following the recently concluded Artist Management Music Business Conference.
The government of Trinidad and Tobago will soon sign a memorandum of understanding for cooperation with the UK-based Creative Industries Development Agency. The MOU is expected to assist in the development of Trinidad and Tobago's creative industry sector. Minister Barath says this is all part of the government's plan to diversify the economy, as it is now time to end the nation's reliance on oil and gas.
Traditionally, Trinidad and Tobago has been an economy driven primarily by oil and gas, and despite what we call in Trinidad the old talk that has taken place over the last 30-odd years about diversification of the economy, we really haven't gotten down to doing that. And we've understood for years that there are significant latent streams of revenue in other parts of the economy. So about a year and a half ago, we sat down very seriously in Trinidad and Tobago and tried to understand what those parallel streams could potentially be. And we identified the creative sector as one of the driving forces of developing an alternative form of revenue for Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Barath says the newly minted relationship will undoubtedly see the government better able to provide assistance to enable the structured growth of the industry.
What it does, it starts to put some level of structure and organization around an industry really that has developed in spite of government. It is developed because people have, of their own sweat and blood, to an extent, have succeeded on a world stage through sheer talent and sheer grit. But the issue is, could we have more people succeeding if we create the enabling environment to allow that?
Minister Barath says the MOU can also lead to the development of $1 billion sector in Trinidad and Tobago, as information and structure are key to development. According
to recent reports, the actual global music industry is valued somewhere in the region of about $16.5 billion. So even if we can get 1% of that being developed in Trinidad and Tobago, that's $160 million US dollars. That's actually $1 billion. So we start a $1 billion industry. We're just getting 1%. And you know, so many people fall out of the system simply because they do not know where to go, who to go to, how to approach the issue, how to access an opportunity. There's just really very little information. And that's why I'm so happy to be part of this, because it puts a structure around a whole new sector that we're looking to develop.
The Trade and Industry Minister warns that while the government will do what it can to assist the growth of the creative industry, the stakeholders must aim to make the industry sustainable on its own.
None of these sectors are going to be successful ultimately if you cannot attract private sector funding into it at some point in time. That is not to say that government ought not to be involved at the forefront and at the start, because you need to fund it, you need to encourage it. But there must be some long-term goal whereby the private sector can make money in this. Because if the private sector can't make money in it, then it's not going to be sustainable.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Carnival is more than just Steelband and Calypso. Minister of Arts and Multiculturalism, Dr. the Honorable Lincoln Douglas, suggests this is the realization many persons must come to as the festival expands and crosses national borders.
Minister Douglas explains his ministry is in the process of marketing this country's carnival to many nations on the African continent. The Arts and Multiculturalism Minister says there are many other aspects of the national festival which his ministry is promoting abroad. This, he said, has led to the rapid expansion of the industry.
I resist the urge to perpetuate the myth that the industry is solely about carnival and soca and steelband. So at the ministry, we are working assiduously to promote the wider definition and the all-encompassing nature of the contemporary creative landscape that exists in Trinidad and Tobago.
He explains Carnival is currently being marketed to several other nations as it can provide solid financial and economical returns to individuals and, as a result, the nation as a whole.
It gives us an opportunity for our creative people and our designers, etc., to be able to market their products, their goods and services abroad. As we say, in the last year or so, we have worked with at least 4 carnivals in Nigeria. And for this coming year, we have Sierra Leone, Ghana, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and a few other West African countries, including some East African like Uganda and Tanzania, will be coming to Trinidad to see what we do here.
Dr. Douglas reveals that his ministry is intent on ensuring the infrastructure necessary for the expansion of Carnival and for the rest of the creative industry is in place and able to accommodate the rapid expansion he has planned.
And soon, in the coming fiscal season and next couple of years, we will be looking to develop more spaces that we call festival spaces for Pan, for the Calypso art form, and some of our natural other religious festivals like Ram Leela, etc.
The Arts and Multiculturalism Minister assures his ministry's commitment to strengthening the human resource capacity of the creative industry. He indicates this will be done through strategic training and skills building programs, some of which have already begun. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority, TTCAA, has received one of international courier company FedEx 727-200F Boeing aircraft. The donation is part of the drive to improve aviation training here at home. According to the director at Civil Aviation Authority, Ramesh Lachmandial, the acquisition signifies a new frontier in pilot training in the region.
Touchdown of the latest aircraft to be added to the fleet used for training this country's aviators at the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority. The FedEx Boeing 727 aircraft, which arrived at Piarco International Airport, has been renamed Natalie and was donated by Federal Express to the TTCAA for the use of technical training of aviation students. This marks FedEx's first donation of this kind to the Caribbean. Director General of Civil Aviation Ramesh Lachmandial says the acquisition of the aircraft will serve to better the aviation training service here in Trinidad and Tobago.
The key to the prevention of errors in aviation is training. And it's for this reason that pilots, engineers, mechanics, air traffic controllers they have to undergo mandatory, initial, and recurrent training to very exacting standards established by the International Civil Aviation Organization in their respective disciplines. And they need to do this in order to maintain the highest levels of safety in our air transport operations. And therefore, this aircraft that we are getting here today is going to be a very important tool to be used by the Civil Aviation Authority in the training of aviation professionals.
The Civil Aviation Training Center is a leading aviation training facility in the Caribbean and has been providing training in the region for the past 50 years. The 727 aircraft received is widely known as one of the premier planes in freight history, as there are only 15 built by Boeing. The aircraft is said to hold advanced power with its Pratt & Whitney engines and features a strengthened fuselage structure. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
Up next, gold medal swimmer George Bovell returns to Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for staying with us. National swimmer and recent gold medalist at the FINA World Championships, George Bovell III, says he believes that the future of swimming as a sport in Trinidad and Tobago is secure. He makes the comment during an exclusive interview with News 4 Sports following his return from the World Championships circuit.
Bovell was welcomed home earlier this week following his record-breaking swim in the 50-meter freestyle at the FINA World Championships in Barcelona. Bovell's 50-meter swim saw him break the national record, touching the wall in 21.51 seconds. He explains he is proud of his achievement as he hopes to show young persons that their nationality should not prevent them from achieving success.
I hope to leave behind a legacy where they can now look and say, look, somebody from Trinidad did it, therefore I can do it too. When I was now starting off, I didn't know if it was even possible. Nobody I had ever known from Trinidad had done it big in swimming.
Bovell says he believes the necessary infrastructure has already been put in place for young aspiring swimmers to build upon the legacy he intends to leave.
Part of what's needed is already being done in the fact that they're building the National Aquatic Centre. That's going to do huge things for the sport of swimming, because not only will it provide places for our athletes to practice and compete, but it will also allow us to host international competitions, which will give further exposure to our up-and-coming swimmers.
The national swimmer says he too will do what he can to provide opportunities to young swimmers. He says his swim camp is one way in which he intends to assist with the development of the sport.
I'm going to do the George Bovell dive-in swim clinics again this January, and looking forward to bringing down some other Olympic medalists, and we're going to give back to the swimmers of our country for free. We're going to, make it countrywide in South, in the East, in the West, and in Tobago once again. And it should be have the support of NP and my other sponsor, Atlantic LNG.
Looking ahead to his future, Bovell says while Rio 2016 is in his sights, he has more immediate challenges on his mind, which he hopes to conquer.
The short term right now, it's continuing in the World Cup quest, the FINA World Cup quest, which picks up again in Moscow on October 12th. So I want to continue with that circuit, and last year I managed to come second. This year it's a little bit more competitive, but I'm in the runnings.
Meanwhile, the national swimmer adds that citizens must be cognizant of the amount of hard work and sacrifice athletes put into representing their country. He says that while he greatly appreciates the efforts of the nation, those who criticize the athletes when they do not achieve their desired results should rethink their actions.
It's good that they're involved and that they're caring about sports, but they have to understand that you can't always be on top. And we are just one small country competing against the whole world, and we're doing pretty good just to make it to the finals. And we have been blessed representing our country way more than the size, with the sheer quality of our athletes, producing Olympic gold medals like Hazley Crawford, Keyshawn Walcott, medals like Richard Thompson, the relay. I mean, that's something I'm so proud about. And you can't only be on the bandwagon, naysayers, when we're doing good. You got to back the people all the time. We're working hard so you can brag about our country, so you can feel proud when you see Trinidad and Tobago's flag being raised.
Gregory McBurney, News 4 Sports.
More news after the break. Welcome back. Minister of Tobago Development, Dr. Delman Baker, met with Minister of Energy, the Honorable Kevin Ramnarine, to discuss matters of energy as it relates to Tobago. One of their main focuses was the impacts the energy industry has on the fishing trade in Tobago.
Meaningful dialogue was established among the Minister of Tobago Development, the Minister of Energy, and members of the All Tobago Fisherfolk Association in Tobago at the office of the Ministry of Tobago Development. After a private meeting amongst themselves, the media was briefed on the discussions held, including that of energy developments off the coast of Tobago.
The Minister of Energy, because one is my good friend, and two, we sit together in the same cabinet and share much of the same concerns for the Tobagonian fishermen in the first instance, and for fish production and food production on the island. And is also concerned with the development of the new sector, energy sector in Tobago, has come to discuss ways and means in which we can partner at the ministry with the level of the fishermen and with the oil companies in ensuring that when we develop the energy sector, it does not adversely affect the fishing sector, which is already on ground and landed in Tobago.
A watercraft monitoring system will be installed at the new meteorological office in Crown Point when it is completed for Tobago's boat owners. This would assist them in locating their boats out at sea and would prevent theft, which occurs occasionally in Tobago. The possibility of new gas stations to provide fuel, mainly to boat owners, was also on the agenda.
Also, and I must pull the plug here, and he will give you further details, the possibility of having another one or possibly two gas stations in East Tobago in particular, and he will tell you where the primary considerations for those stations are at the moment. We can see in fiscal 2014 the possibility of advancing both the cause of the fishermen in Tobago and the cause of the traveling public who will need the services provided by those fueling facilities on island and perhaps at the island's coast.
However, Minister Baker says this cannot be done by his ministry alone and therefore relishes every opportunity to interface with the THA to develop Tobago's projects.
Of course, these discussions will involve the primary development agency on the island, which is the Tobago House of Assembly. Let me say again, and I'm going to say this at every press briefing, we are not in competition with the Tobago House of Assembly. We are here at the Ministry of Tobago Development to advance the cause of all Tobagonians. And if, I say this commitment openly, if there is any proposal for which the THA has its primary interest, that is in the benefit of all Tobagonians, we at the Ministry, we are prepared to support those proposals 100%.
Minister of Energy Kevin Ramnarine says plans will be made to expand the fuel capacity at the Roxborough gas station to facilitate the needs of the fishermen.
And that is something that we want to work on very quickly. Because what happens there is that the station runs out of fuel and it takes a while before it is replenished. So if they have more storage, they would not run out of fuel as quickly as they currently do. One of the concerns being the impact of drilling operations, specifically as it relates to the very intense lighting that are used on the rigs. The lighting, of course, attracts the fish, and fishermen can't, for safety purposes, it is not recommended that they fish close to a live drilling rig. So that is something which I will, when I go back to Port of Spain, I'm going to ask the officials of Centrica to engage with the fisher folk together with persons from my ministry.
Fishermen will be compensated accordingly for their losses, according to Minister Ramnarine. Both ministers were pleased that the fishermen chose the route of dialogue rather than protest to have their concerns heard. Reporting from Tobago, Patricia Nicholson, News 4.
And that story brings us to the end of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.